Hey everyone, welcome to Gadgets with Gurman. Today I have an episode that a lot of you have been asking about. It's almost the holiday season. We're right after the launch of several new flagship smartphones from the biggest manufacturers, from Apple to Google. And one of the hottest accessories right now, thanks to the AirPods, are wireless headphones. And so today we have the Google Pixel Bud headphones that are optimized for the Pixel 2, and this is the XL model. Been some controversy around this. We reviewed this recently on the show, so head to Gadgets with Gurman's homepage on Facebook, facebook.com/GadgetsWithGurman to check that one out. But today we're talking about the Pixel Buds. Before I get started, please, on our Facebook page, click the little icon to subscribe for notifications so you can get alerted every time we come on. And please send in your questions on Facebook and Twitter. We're already getting a lot of them about the Pixel Buds, and we'll answer them throughout the show. Now, the first thing I want to note is my takeaway. The Pixel Buds, they try super hard to be AirPods, but they pretty much fail spectacularly in my testing, connected to an Android phone, not just an iPhone. These things cost $170, which is the same as the AirPods. They have a charging case where you connect a USB-C connector and you flip open the case to pair it. There's a fast pairing mechanism. They are pretty much wireless, and so many problems that I want to get through with these. Also some bright spots. But first, I want to jump into the different categories that you need to look at when you are working with wireless headphones. So that's the charging case, the pairing process, how they feel in your ear, the sound quality, and the voice assistant features. And we're going to go through all of them. Let's start with the case. So you see the case here, and my first takeaway from the case is that it's really flimsy. I saw someone write, and I couldn't have summed it up better myself. This feels like a takeout tray when you get food. It's sort of like one of those cardboard trays. It feels really flimsy, really cheap. It honestly feels like something that you would throw away, but it's actually just the actual, case itself. Compare that to the high, heavy quality plastic of the AirPods. It just feels extremely rigid. These feel pretty cheap. On the positive side, it matches the rest of the design of the different fabrics that Google is using now across its products, the Daydream headset. So it's soft, it's felty, it'll slip into your pocket nicely or your bag. Overall, it's a little bit bigger. You can see the comparison to the size of the AirPods, or if you want to see what they look like in comparison to the size of a Pixel 2 XL here. Overall, quite flimsy, feels nice. Doesn't feel as expensive as plastic, ironically. You flip it open, and what you have in here is this little, tray mechanism. The headphones are stored in here. Now, first thing I want to talk about before I jump in is this little indicator light here. So you'll click this button to get the indicator light. So I know what it means. This is referring to how much battery life is left in the case for charging it up. Now, by the way, the case gets 24 hours, same as the AirPods. But I think to most people, it's going to be extraordinarily unclear what this dot even means. There's a few of them. Some of them light up. Sometimes they don't light up. It's fundamentally confusing. You almost need a legend or a map to be able to understand this battery meter. And the problems don't stop there. And by the way, I think they should just remove that indicator light from really meaning anything. Just keep it to sort of like simple with the AirPods. It has the green light or a red light, meaning if you have high battery or good battery life in the case. But it's actually this cable here. So they're not true wireless like the AirPods. You have this cable in between, and you have to wrap it around to get in there. So let me just show you the process. That's how you take them out. You put them back in. You put the right one in and the left one in here. And then this is basically, if you can get it in here properly, wrapping it around. So you wrap it around. And this is the benefit of doing a live show. You can see how these things work in real world scenarios here. So popping this back in, close that loop a little bit more. Okay, you get it in there, and then you want to wrap around the cord. Right, and then you just fit it in here, and you have to close it. And you can see it's still hanging out here a little, right? I challenge you to finish a run or try to quickly get these things in after running or any other activity and having them properly closed, properly charging up, and not going to be open. It's going to take you some time to honestly get this thing in easily and all locked up tight. There's a little diagram of how to do this. I've looked at the diagram, I've looked at everything, and here, I have it closed perfectly now, but that took 2 tries. Okay, now I have music playing from the headphones here because I clicked the side of the headphone. We'll get into that. We went a little early there. But yeah, very complicated in order to get the headphones into the charging case. Now we have a bunch of questions already coming in here, and I'll answer this first one now. Do the Pixel Buds have a proximity sensor to automatically play or pause as you put them in your ear or take them out. We'll get to that in the in-ear quality and sound section of the show, but no, like with the AirPods, you can put them in and you can start playing your music, do a Siri command or play it from your phone, and they will continue to play until you take them out. You take them out to talk to someone. You can have a 15-minute conversation with someone, put them back in, they'll continue to play. That does not happen with the Pixel Buds themselves. They do not do that. And we'll get into a demo in a minute here about how to use them, but I want to show you the pairing process first. Another thing I've been having some issues with. Other people are reporting that as well. So let's switch the other camera, and I want to show you how the pairing works here. So this pairing process is one of the more hit or miss things of the entire device. I've tried pairing these things different ways, upwards of 10 times over multiple days. Now, the thing to note here is that there's a few ways to pair it. You can pair it through the classic Bluetooth menu, like you would pair any other headset, or you can pair it through this fast pairing method. So what you're supposed to be able to do is, just like with the AirPods, you're supposed to be able to flip open the case, and it should bring a menu down from the top in order to pair it. But in reality, that doesn't always work. There is this little button in here, and if you hold it down for about 3 to 5 seconds, you should get a pop-up right here after the lights are blinking to get a pairing mechanism in order to quickly pair it. And it worked this time, but I can tell you, and maybe that's the luck of the show, but I can tell you there have been several times where I've tried to do this where this pop-up menu would not appear. So take that for what it's worth, that it's not going to work every time. This time it worked, not as quickly as it does with the AirPods, but this actually worked pretty well. Usually it doesn't, based on my testing. Hopefully there'll be a software update or something down the road to get it to work. Another thing to note about this pairing process is that you have to have the Google Translate and Google apps installed on this phone, the latest updates from the Google Play Store, in order for it to work properly. So let's continue this pairing process here. You click Connect, connects to the Google Pixel Buds over wireless, over Bluetooth. You do your setup, you click Next, and then it gives you a little diagram here of how to adjust the headset, and I'll show you in a minute putting them in. Sleep mode and charging, it's talking about wrapping the cable in here. Click Next. Your assistant is set up. It gives you a little battery diagram there. Okay, now you have your settings, your battery life, some tutorials. The fact that you need in-depth tutorials here about how to use these things is pretty telling. Some of the other periphery information about the headset. So now it's paired. It worked pretty well. If it doesn't work for you, if you have one of these, you can go into the Bluetooth settings menu and pair them manually. That actually hasn't had a problem for me, but it was the fast pairing that's had an issue. Now let's take these off, and I want to put them in. So let's switch the other camera and zoom in a little bit to me so we can take a look at how these things look. So I'm going to start putting them in and put one in here. Now it's playing music already, and that's probably because it doesn't have the proximity sensor inside. It doesn't know not to play till I have them in. So I'm going to put these in, put the rope around my head, put the left one in, put the right one in. Let's zoom in some more so you can see them going into my ear, and put them in here. Now my impression of using these is that, and I keep playing the music accidentally here. They are not comfortable. I feel like these are going to fall right out. Now there are some adjustments here. You can pull a tab at the top here, and you can see, let's zoom in some more if we can. You can see the tab pulling it in and out right there. You put it in, and it sort of has this loop that you can stick up in your ear above the canal to sort of fit it better, right? And it makes it feel a little bit more secure than it would otherwise, but it's a little difficult to have these things in front of your head. And you can see, you can get a better look at it, in my left ear there. You put it in. Again, they feel uncomfortable. I don't feel safe with these, right? I feel like they would just fall out during a run. And let's take a look a little bit here. You can see what they look like. Now I'm going to take one out and put an AirPod in so you can see what it looks like in comparison. So let's put an AirPod. See this? You can see it just fell out. And again, the benefit of doing a live show, you can see this stuff happening live. That's what the AirPod looks like. That's what this one looks like. It looks a little bit more like a broggy in your ear. It doesn't stick out as much as an AirPod might. The AirPod has that little stick there. A lot of people have made fun of it. But the reality is I have been using these things, and let's zoom out a little bit here, using these things for a year, the AirPods that is, and I have never lost one. One has never fallen out of my ear. I've lost the case itself with the AirPods in them. I've left them in a bag. I think one time I actually left them in my freezer or in the car, but I never felt like I would actually lose the whole set if it didn't have this cable in between like I feel with these ones. I feel super uneasy about these, to be honest. Just totally uncomfortable, totally feel like these are going to fall out on a walk or a run or a hike or on the treadmill or something like that. So if you're into extreme sports or anything like that, just know that this cable is here for a reason. The cable's here, so if these things fall out of your ears, they will fall around your neck. So I feel like this is a safety net that the AirPods don't need, because the way that they're designed to fit in your ear canals, you don't have to risk losing them. Of course, everyone has different ear shapes, different sizes. For me, the AirPods work really well. These don't. More questions coming in here. Does the extra weight of the Pixel Buds make them less secure during exercise? Do they both weigh the same? So, I mean, if you're talking about like the actual earphones itself, I don't feel like any weight difference. But the thing to note is only the right ear has all the technology in them in terms of going through tracks. So if you want to listen to music, you can control the volume by actually swiping your finger on the earbuds, and that's actually a really nice feature that the AirPods don't have. In order to control volume on the AirPods, you double tap for Siri and you say turn the volume up or turn the volume down, play, pause, whatever. On these ones, you can just swipe back and forth on the right earphone in order to control the volume. Now, I'm right-handed, and I know a majority of the population is right-handed, so I don't have this concern. But for those who are left-handed, right, there is no indicator on the side of how to use it, right? You can't switch between right and left sides. The AirPods have a really nice settings menu where you can put different controls in the different AirPod. They're both motion sensitive. They're both touch sensitive. On the Pixel Buds, the left side is basically dead. You can do no control from it. You can't do volume from it. You can't invoke the assistant from it. You can't control volume from it or play tracks or anything like that. So it's completely limited. It's just the speaker itself. I feel like the Google Pixel Buds should be able to work on both sides to appeal and work for everyone. It's an accessibility concern, in my opinion. So both sides should be active, but unfortunately, they are not. More questions coming in here. What sort of upgrades do you think Google will do for the Pixel Buds software-wise over the coming months, since it seems they were rushed out? The first thing they need to fix on these things is definitely the pairing process. It is so fundamentally frustrating and hit and miss trying to set these things up and use these things. It is pretty much the polar opposite from the AirPods in terms of how easy the AirPods were to set up every time and pair them. And this is even on an Android phone. The integration could be deeper, and we'll get into some more of that. Now, we have a lot of people asking about the sound quality, right? So how do they sound? Well, I've been listening to all sorts of music, rap music, non-rap music, all sorts of stuff that I would normally listen to on my phone, and the quality of the sound is actually quite good. I think it's somewhat comparable, not as good as the AirPods, but I can't not recommend these because of the sound quality. These are not for obviously an audiophile, nor are the AirPods. You might want to look at a Bose. I know there's new Bose headphones that connect to Google Assistant as well and pair similarly to the Pixel Buds. You might want to look at those, but in terms of everyday sound quality, making phone calls, listening, if you jack the volume up high enough, it sounds pretty good, and I don't have a concern there. My concern is mostly in terms of pairing, as well as the comfort and the fear of these things falling out. So good thing that the cable is there. Now, another benefit on the AirPods that these things don't have are the ecosystem, being able to quickly pair between an Android tablet, an Android phone, and the Pixelbook laptop. You cannot sync these. So if you're using AirPods, you're listening to music, you get home, you go onto your Mac, you click the volume button in the top right corner of your Mac's menu bar, you jump in, you can switch between using the AirPods for the phone, using them between the computer, your iPad, the Apple TV, all your Apple devices. Android doesn't have that ecosystem where everything is paired together over a Google account. So that's another thing that I feel like they should add to answer your question in a software update to the Pixel Buds into the future. More questions coming in here. Could the cable choke you? You know, I don't think so, because you have, well, don't take my word for it, because that is a gray area, but you have the cable behind your neck, so it wouldn't really be a problem. So if they come out, no one could really pull them to choke you or anything like that. I can see why that would be a concern, but I'm not totally concerned about that one. Now, more things to go through here are the proximity sensor. Now, we've had a few questions about this, and I want to address this more formally. The proximity sensor, there isn't one. I mean, if there is one, it doesn't work, but I don't see one on here. Versus on the AirPods, you can physically see the black dot. Now, let's switch the other camera so we can show people what they look like inside. So you can see it has the right and the left ear markers, the little speakers themselves, and you have the little pins for the charging case when you put them back in the case. So I don't see a proximity sensor on there, and in my usage, there's definitely not one there. So if you're listening to music, in order to pause the music, you want to double tap on these things right here, and then you're able to take them out, put them back in. There have been times where I've taken these things out, I've forgotten to pause the music either from the phone or from the headphones themselves, or put them back in the case, and the music continued to play. The interesting thing is if you put them back into the case, the music will stop. But these things don't know when they're in your ears or not in their ears. If there is a sensor on here that I'm not seeing, certainly wasn't working for me, hopefully they can add that in a software update. If not, I think it is a complete necessity, especially for a wireless headphone that's so easy to take in and out for the future. The wired EarPods, all those devices, wired headphones, they don't really need that because it's not a physical thing where you're constantly controlling. This is something you're controlling on the side of your head. It makes it much more necessary to have proximity sensors. So it's a shame that it's at least not working for me on these ones. Now, something that is actually pretty cool is the Google Assistant integration. Now, you have everything installed, and let's switch the other camera here. I'm going to put these back in. You have the apps installed, Google Translate, you have the Google Assistant installed. You put them in, and you can do all sorts of cool commands. Now, this comes down to basically the battle between Google Assistant, the voice service, and Siri. I think Google Assistant is far more powerful than Siri. It's quicker, it's more accurate, it goes right to the cloud instead of via the phone to the cloud and sending information back down. Obviously, people have their concerns about both of them. Quite frankly, Siri is much better on the AirPods than Google Assistant is on the headphones in terms of how fast it is to set up and pair. You don't have to download anything additional. It's much quicker. But once you have everything up and running, Google Assistant on these is really nice. So you can press down for a second. You start saying, okay, Google, what time is it in New York? And it'll tell you the time in New York, or weather, or anything like that. But here's the thing I don't like. When you invoke Siri on the AirPods, you double tap on them, and it will give you a buzz, like the Siri buzz when you say, hey Siri. And basically what it will do is you'll know that it's time to start talking, giving your command. On the Google Assistant, you put your finger on it, you start talking. It doesn't know that you have no idea if it's sending a command to Google Assistant. You could have done it by accident, you have no idea. And right now it's not really giving me commands because it doesn't know what's going to Assistant, what's not going to the Assistant. So basically what I mean here is I wish there was some feedback when you put your finger down to know that you're sending information to the Google Assistant cloud so you know what you're doing. Now, another feature that Google is really promoting on these things, and I've gotten so many questions about this, is the Translate feature. So I actually want to give you a demo here of the Translate feature. So I'm going to unlock the phone. I have to pause the music there. Now, I get in here, and now I double tapped, and it's trying to give me my notifications. So that's one thing that it does really well, is feeding notifications when it works. So now it's telling me I have no notifications on here. Now I want to go into Google Translate. So let's open the Translate application here. It's not coming up. Let's go, where's Translate? Translate. Okay, so the way it works is like this. And let's switch to the other camera so I can show you this. So in your Google Translate, basically if you're speaking to someone in another language, so I have this into Hebrew, but I'll do Hebrew to English. So basically I can type in something in Hebrew, right? And then I hand it to like someone who's speaking Hebrew, they type it in, and then the English will play in my ears. And then I can speak it back, and then it'll type it back into Hebrew. So I can speak the English to the Pixel Buds, then I'll type it into Hebrew. Now, there's no benefit to this because the Translate app can do this anyways on an iPhone or a Pixel phone without needing the earbuds. The only difference is the deeper integration with the headphones, being able to hear it in your ear. I don't find that necessary at all, given there are so many third-party free apps and first-party apps that do this already. Siri does it. You don't really need the Pixel Buds to do this Translate feature. So if you're looking to spend $170 to take a big trip in order to get this Translate feature, I would not recommend these headphones at all for that reason. You can do it with a free app on your existing phone. It's not really necessary. But all in all, back to the assistant functionality. Let's switch back to the other camera here. The functionality is super powerful. Being able to just ask the Google Assistant for directions somewhere. I put one earlier for restaurants to take me to the closest Chinese food restaurant. It will tell you how to get there. It will have directions in your ear. You can do something similar with Siri, but I find the deep integration of Google services, which is really their strength, the combination of Gmail, the services, maps, as well as location services and the infrastructure and the reliability of Assistant. That's really where the benefit is. I just wish they took more advantage of it. I wish it was a little bit easier to set up because that whole process, that cumbersome sub process, is really a detractor to wanting to really use these things. But once you start using them, the Google services integration is quite good as long as you have a good internet connection through the phone. Now, more questions coming in here. How do these buds compare with the Beats wireless buds? Well, I mean, the difference here is the planned or the supposed integration with Google Assistant, having Google Assistant in your ear, the fast setup process, the wireless element to it. But overall, I mean, it's just two different things. One comes from Beats, one comes from Google. One focuses more on the audio quality. The other one mostly focuses on the Assistant integration going through the Google services. Now, like I said, you require some setup here. And I don't know if this is because I have an early model or if this is what it's going to be like for a consumer who buys this for a month down the road. But you have to make sure you have the Google Translate latest update installed, as well as the Google app, the Google Assistant functionality all set up in order to take advantage of Google Assistant on here. Now, something that would actually be really cool, and I wish the Pixel Buds had, was deep Google Assistant functionality on its own, to be able to go on a run and not take your phone with you and be able to tap over the internet or Wi-Fi networks or cellular in order to get into Google Assistant. That would be something really compelling, something that I haven't seen other players pull off, a full-on ear computer type of thing. This is a new concept, hearables, that different companies are really pushing right now. Now, if Google is able to come out with these, even if it was a little bit more expensive and they were fully independently operational, like an LTE Apple Watch per se, that could be something really compelling. Basically a wearable that can exist all on its own. Maybe in a future generation. Is that something that Google will be able to get to ahead of Amazon or Apple? I mean, I think so, given their integration of services and how much they focus on the services side. That would be something really compelling, especially for a company that really flopped badly a few years ago with the flimsy $1,500 Google Glass. Other questions coming in here. How do they compare to the Icon X, and do they have built-in storage? So it's all done through the phone itself. You're not storing any of the media on here. Like I said, I think it would be really awesome if they had 4 gigs or 8 gigs of storage, cloud downloads, LTE, doing everything from your ear, making phone calls, having video conference, or not video conferences, but audio conference calls, meetings, listening to music, streaming, everything just like you would to like a cellular smartwatch or a phone, but doing it entirely from your ear. That would be something new. That would be something compelling. And that, if Google's already coming out with something that's basically a far inferior version of the AirPods, rushing it to market, I feel like they should have waited a year or two and actually came out with something compelling, a new category, which they really could have done given the vast resources that Google has. So it's a little bit surprising that they decided to throw these out there. Nobody was asking Google to make headphones, so it would have been nice for them to wait a little bit longer and actually bring something new and innovative to the market versus something that's basically a low-quality version of the AirPods. More questions coming in here. How do they work with an iPhone? Now, the two things you have to note if you're pairing these to an iPhone is that they don't work as deeply with Google Assistant as they would with Google Assistant on a Pixel phone or any other Android phone running version 6.0 or later. I know we're already on the Oreo 8 beta. Also, the Google Translate functionality is not deeply integrated like it would be on the Pixel phone. And that, in fact, is a exclusive to the first Pixel as well as the new Pixel 2 and Pixel 2 XL that we have here. How do they work with an iPhone? Well, you pair them like a standard Bluetooth headset. You can listen to music. You can do some of the controls to go between tracks, but it's nowhere as deeply integrated as they are with the Pixel phone or another Android phone running version 6 or newer. Just like the AirPods, you can pair them as a standard Bluetooth headset to an Android phone. You're not going to get all the functionality. You're not going to get the quick pairing. You're not going to get the Siri embedded in it, but you will get a pretty decent set of Bluetooth headphones. So the main thing to understand here is that if you have an Android phone and you're looking for a really solid set of Google headphones that take advantage of the Android ecosystem, use Google Assistant, tap into the latest Android software features, there are better options on the market. $170 is a lot of money for headphones at launch right now that have so many problems, are fundamentally difficult to use, and are somewhat cumbersome. Hopefully, eventually, they do software updates or hardware updates to make these things better. But if you want decent sound quality, you want something that you can know that even though they're going to fall out of your ears likely on a run or a hike or extreme sports or something like that, you have a cable to catch them. You know that they're probably going to get better over time with Android software updates. You might want to consider these. But if you're the type of person who's looking to buy these exclusively for the Translate feature, you want something that's going to work 100% reliably the first time you take it out of the box, I don't think that as of right now these are for you. And certainly with improvements down the road, we'll be sure to update this episode and do another one on the latest improvements because I know this is a popular topic. And I've seen some Bose headphones with Google Assistant built in. I've tried some other Android headphones, ones that are compatible with Android, and those are far better. $170 is a lot of money. And if you compare what you can do with $170 if you're an iPhone user to buying the AirPods, obviously the AirPods are far better. I've really not had any problems with them over the past year, whereas this has just been a bungle of problems from the get-go. So if you're an Android user, you want to take a look at these, try them out, but I can't recommend them really right now until they get some hardware and software updates. So this was Gadgets with Gurman. These were the Pixel Buds. If you have any other questions, please send them in on Facebook and Twitter, and I'll respond to them on Twitter. And we'll have a follow-up episode with software updates on these down the road. And stay tuned next week for another episode. Thanks.